Hello guys and welcome back to Birmingham Fan TV. This is a long time in the making, I guess, and it's been a long time, so I thought it was time to get the camera back out and give you guys a little bit of a chat and obviously a little bit of a heads up as to what's been going on over the last couple of weeks, months. It's been close to months now, and I thought we'd have a chat about some Blues stuff, make a change, lighten the mood a little bit in what is a pretty dull and unprecedented time in which a lot of us, can't see our families, can't go and watch the football, and we can't do a lot of what we like doing on a day-to-day basis, and life isn't normal at the minute, and what is normal going to be when we return. But one thing's for certain, football will return at some point. God knows when that's going to be, but I look forward to the day it comes back. But how have you guys been? Let me know in the comments. How have you guys been handling lockdown? I think that everybody's been dealing with it in their own way. Everybody's been, I'm guessing, pre-active. Everybody's been doing something that's constructive, maybe some housework. Maybe you've started a new project. I know me for one. Obviously, me and Emily moved into a house back end of last year, and we've not really had a lot of time to do a lot of housework, so I've been doing some housework, and I've started up my Football Manager careers again, which have been a long time coming. I had to stop doing them when we went to university because time permitted, it doesn't give. But let me know in the comments what you guys have been doing. And it's great to be back, honestly. I love doing the channel, it's my passion. Outside of my work life, this is my passion. And yeah, obviously, I really hate it when we're not in front of the camera and you guys aren't here to watch, and we're not able to have these chats because it's unfortunately sometimes life gets in the way, like we just said. It's unprecedented times. I've had several family issues over the last couple of weeks. It seems to keep hitting me this year, family problems, and I can only apologise, but it really, family takes front and centre stage when it comes to that or the channel. And also, obviously, I've been stuck on the furlough scheme at work, so I've got to think about bills as well and how to manage that. So unfortunately this has been put on the back burners, but we're back now, and I wanted to just give you a quick brief insight into some things that have changed in the channel. As you may know, if you follow us on social media, if you follow us on Twitter or Instagram, you'll know that Mark, Chris and Jack have unfortunately left us, and this was a difficult one and a real sad one. I think Mark, Chris and Jack and I have really built up a great relationship, great friendship, and we still have. But unfortunately, we had different opinions on how the podcast should be run. A lot of you guys weren't happy with the way the podcast was going. We sat down and we spoke about it, and unfortunately, we didn't agree on the ways that we should be running it. And unfortunately, they have decided to no longer continue. But they have gone and started up their own podcast. It's a football-related podcast in talking general football topics, from transfers to money issues in the football game. So go and follow them. It's Fat Lads Going Goal, and they're on the We Are Birmingham network. Go and find them on there and give that a listen. I'm sure you'll enjoy it if you enjoy your football stuff. In terms of incomings, we've brought in Corey. You haven't seen Corey, and you probably won't see Corey in front of the camera too much. He's definitely been brought in to increase a lot of your interactiveness. So you guys are going to need to... what we've got in mind is we're going to try and get a lot more opinions on, so a lot more videos as well. So if you guys start sending in videos, start sending in your opinions, we want to put those within our videos to make the final cut. And we obviously want to start getting you guys involved in a fan channel more, because at the end of the day, that's why we do it. Me and Emily host it, but that doesn't mean it's about us, it's about the fans, and we want to get you guys involved. So Corey's been brought in to help bridge the gap between myself and you guys can send in 30-second clips on the match previews to let us know all your opinions. When we do Q&As, you send in your thoughts, your opinions, your questions, whatever it might be, and that is where we're going to be going from now on. And he's also going to help with a lot of the social medias as well, so it's good to have Corey on board, and sad to see the other guys go. But let's move on, and just quickly before we do get into the video, guys, if you can let me know what you want to see in terms of videos, comment down below what you want to see me talk about over the next few weeks. I'm planning to talk about the contract situations with a lot of players who are out of contract in the summer, who I think should stay, who I think we should sell or release or anything like that, loan out. So that's going to be next week's video. So let me know if you want to see that, but also let me know if you want to see a live Q&A. I'm thinking about doing a Q&A live on YouTube and Facebook. So if you want to see that, please tell me yes, you want to see live Q&A. Do you want to see a live quiz down below? It's something that I've been planning for a couple of weeks now. But also any other videos that you think Blues related that you think, yes, definitely we need to speak about that. That is a big talking point, or anything that's maybe not been spoken about that should be, or anything I've missed out. Let me know and we'll discuss it and send in your opinions, and we'll try and get those on the channel as quickly as possible in the build up to the Sky Bet Championships return in mid-June. And let's get into today's video. So enough of the updates. Let's talk about Birmingham City, and it has been a long time coming, and it feels like forever since we were cheering on the boys in blue. And I think, if my memory serves right, the last game was at the start of March. We're now in mid-May. So you're talking over 2 months. That's a long, long time. You know, even pre-season, you've got all the build-up, you've got all the transfer speculation, incomings, outgoings, changes within the club, ready for next season. You've got the hype that is built up around mid-season. And we haven't got any of that. There is nothing. It's so flat. And even then, we get pre-season games after about 6 to 7 weeks. They start coming back in. We don't even have those at the minute. And the talk is it's going to restart mid-June. But at that point, it's 3 and a bit months since we had a last game. So it's going to be a while. But let's try and start building up. And I think the best place to start is to look back on the season so far. We've got 9 games to go, so we have played 37 games, and I think that's enough of an amount to sort of bridge an idea on how we've done and where we're going to be next season, and whether it has been successful or not, and whether it's worth building on this season or we need a change within the club. So that's what I'm going to look at today. So let's start with that one. If we go back to the start and we look at the start of the season, not the first game, we go and look from the start of pre-season. And all I'm going to say is, obviously, I've had a lot of time to think about it. I'm sure you guys have, taken the emotion away from it, of the season. Obviously, we've got no pressures, so we can think about this in a methodical way. I don't think it's been that bad of a season. If I'm going to give my honest, personal opinion, I don't think it's been that bad of a season. I know I've been critical at times this season. I've also been full of praise at times. So I've been a bit of a mixed bag. And it has been a bit of a mixed bag. I think that's the best way to sum this season up, is it's been a mixed bag. Take it back. Blues finished the season relatively flat, but after a relatively successful campaign under Garry Monk. He guided the club to 17th place last season. I know it seems a little bit high, but then taking into consideration he had the 9-point deduction, we would have finished on 61 points. Instead, we finished on 52, which was still a decent amount to finish on. 61 would have been very good, our highest total since Gary Rowett left. And obviously all was good in the summer. Everything was at the back end of the summer. We just finished playing Reading and it was all hunky-dory. And then obviously we get all this talk about Monk being sacked by the board, Monk going, Monk leaving, and it was a bit of a to and fro. It went a bit quiet then. And then it happened and Monk was relieved of his duties. He went along with a couple of the backroom staff. Beattie's placed on gardening leave, and I believe he still is at the minute. So we're not quite sure what's gone on there. But that instantly, again, we're thrown back into turmoil. The club goes from having a bit of stability under Garry Monk, thrown into turmoil. At times, the fans are up in arms, and things don't look too great. And I can understand completely. At the time, I was furious. I was absolutely fuming. Obviously, not knowing every single inside detail. All you can get is drip feeding from various sources, and it didn't look great. But then, obviously, when you get to know why he was sacked, why he left, or why the club decided we needed to move in a different direction, you start to understand that, yeah, it might have actually been for the better. And I think a lot of the club's issues over the years have been not whether to sack the manager, because I think Gary Rowett was sacked for the right reasons, if I'm absolutely brutally honest. Obviously, we got rid of Zola in the end. We had getting rid of Redknapp. We got rid of Cottrell. We got rid of Monk in the end. And you look at all of these managers, and it's not the case of should we have sacked them. We sacked them for the right reasons. It's then the guys that we bring in after have always been the biggest issue with the board. They've never been able to pick the right manager. They kind of got it right with Monk, and then obviously things went downhill towards the end of the season, which we can't delve into, because obviously there's lots of personal matters in those. So it didn't go well. They bring in Pep Clotetti, place him on a temporary head coach, temporary permanent head coach, or whatever his title was, on a rolling contract for a couple of months. And this is my point. He's thrown in at deep end. Obviously, he's never going to turn down the opportunity to become Birmingham City manager. It's a huge job. It's potentially the biggest job that Pep is going to get in football. And that's great. And you can completely understand why he'd take it on. And to be honest, I was actually delighted he took it on in the end, because his track record as a coach is incredibly impressive. His footballing history is so impressive. He's so methodical. He's so intelligent in terms of his thinking towards the game. He's very, very modern in terms of a manager, and it was exciting. But then, obviously, he's then thrown several curveballs. Obviously, he's got a half and half backroom staff. Half of it's Monk's, and then half of it is his own backroom staff, which he's had to bring in. You know, he loses the likes of BT, the sports scientist goes, and him being an assistant manager, he has to fill that role as well. So he fills those voids, and he then loses playing staff. He loses his 23 goal a season striker in Shea from last season. You know, voted one of the best in the EFL. I think he got into the team of the season. An incredible asset for the Blues, along with Juki. But you know, you need two of those assets to be a top team in this league. He loses Shea. Rightly so. The money was there. I think we got a great deal on him. The price was excellent. Obviously, it's a shame to see him struggling at Southampton, but I am confident he will manage to find some form eventually, whether it's at Southampton or another club. I think he's good enough for that league. You lose him, and you think, okay, we've got 16 million. If we can spend 5, 6 and replace him and still make a profit, fantastic. He then loses Hotter, and whatever Blues fans say about Hotter, I know the opinion is that he's gone, he's burnt his bridges, he's gone to Villa, that's fine. That is, you know, unacceptable. But the player himself, the player that he was, and I know he gets a lot of stick for being lightweight and not contributing, but you've got to look at his record last season. Was 8 assists, and I think it was 4 goals. That's pretty good for a winger, you know, in a very rigid system that didn't suit him. He doesn't like playing on the right-hand side. I know a lot of fans say, well, that's his natural position. He's a 10. He likes playing in the pocket, and we never played as a 10. So he stuck himself on the right-hand side, but he still had a good season. To lose your main source of creativity, again, is a massive body blow. And we'll get on to, obviously, bringing in the players he brought in later. And then the third one he lost, obviously, was Michael Morrison. He loses his captain. So he loses his main striker, he loses his main source of creativity, and he loses his leader on the pitch. You take all of that into consideration, you've lost your spine. You've lost the spine of your team. You've then lost Kifton Bell through injury for the whole season, pretty much this season. So again, the majority of the spine. Davis in and out of the team. A lot of the old guard are either not wanted, not needed, not good enough, whatever the issue may be. And then you go on to the players that he's brought in. You know, there was talk all summer that we're going to replace Shea. We're going to replace Shea. We never replaced Shea. We chased and chased and chased after Puskas. And in the end, obviously, he managed to get that last-ditch deal to Reading, who were paying him something stupid. So I'm glad the club didn't actually get him in the end. But the issue being that we should have had other options as well. We should have had other coals on the fire in case this happens, because it happens a lot in football. We didn't get our man. We got Alvaro Jimenez, who, you know, to his credit, tries. He's got a great work ethic and he's a great lad, but he's not good enough. He's come from the Spanish second division, where a lot of his goals were actually penalties, set plays. So he didn't score that many from open play. And it's so hard to adapt to the Championship. The intensity, the physicality, a different country was always going to be difficult for him, and a lot of pressure was put on him early on. So that's not an ideal replacement. You know, you've got Fran Villalba that comes in, bags of ability, bags of talent, terrible attitude, doesn't want it. Same again, can't adapt to the physicality, can't adapt to the intensity, doesn't want to, I don't think, with Fran. I think Jimenez did want to. Fran didn't. And again, he's stuck with that. That's pretty much what he's got on the left-hand side, because he's lost Magoma for a lot of the season. Jax Magoma, again, he's been in and out of the team, injured, can't keep himself fit. And then in terms of a centre-back, he brings in young Jake Clark-Salter, who hasn't had too much positive experience in the Championship. You know, he's a player that got relegated with Sunderland. He went out to Holland, to Vitesse, where he had a fantastic season, but his experience wasn't matching that of Michael Morrison. So you've got all these different factors thrown in. We never got the goalkeeper that we said we needed. We needed someone alongside Lee Camp who was better, as to speak. I love Campy. I think he's a great asset to us. But at the same time, we want a top goalkeeper that's going to help us, jump to that next level in the Championship. We never replaced that either. So the amount of, I don't know, it was a bit of a mishmash of a summer. I think that some of the players we did sign, Dan Crowley, bargain, absolute bargain this season. We've said it a million times. Incredible player. Still being played out of position. Shouldn't be playing on the right-hand side, but an incredible player. Ivan Sunjic, I think, was a no-brainer in terms of, you spend 6 million on him, a lot of that in instalments. You're going to make profit on him regardless. So he's a good combative midfielder. I think we need someone alongside him that can dictate the play. Someone that sits deep and controls games, like a Barry Ferguson that we used to have. We've never replaced him since he's left the club. Maybe Kifahi was the closest we ever came. And those positions were, we strengthened in that area, but then we ended up changing. We never played a number 10 for a lot of the season. I've struggled to find that partner for Ivan Sunjic or that combination in midfield, whoever it might be. And I think some of the biggest areas have been going forwards. Wide players. We've had, for the majority of the season, actually no wide players. If you think Magoma's been injured, so you've lost one winger. Fran Villalba was in and out. So we didn't see him after December. And even then he was injured sometimes. He didn't play sometimes. Dan Crowley was on the right-hand side a lot of time. Not a right winger. He's not a right winger. Jeremy Bella, which was an absolutely, it was a masterstroke that was to bring in Bella. He didn't come till back end of November though. So, he had to deal with a lot of the season before that without him. So he's had no real width. He's had, he added Montero, but Montero's been injured a lot of the season. So I feel for him. He's had no natural width. He's had to adapt to a system where he plays Jude Bellingham as an inside left, Dan Crowley as an inside right. So no real width. The teams know we're going to come through the middle. So he's had to adapt to that. He wanted to play his 5 at the back. He didn't get the players he wanted. He didn't get his left wing back. He didn't get another comfortable left centre back. So he's had to adapt from that. And I think that if you look at all of these various scenarios that Pep's had to deal with from the off, with transfers and with system changes, players getting injured. I know that you can say, that happens to every manager, but a lot of managers aren't left as short-handed as he was at the start of the season. I think back to Steve Bruce when he went to Hull, and he got him promoted, and then the board didn't manage to get anybody in, and he just left. He up and left. So a lot of managers won't deal with it, but Pep stuck around. I think he had a decent core, but not the quality he needed to propel us up the league. And this was where obviously he encountered a lot of his issues. How are you supposed to build a successful team? A team that pushes for whatever the club want or whatever the fan base expects. Top half even, top 12, which we're actually only, I think, 4 points away from a top 12 finish. We got to take that into perspective. How is he supposed to do that with a half a squad? He wasn't. A lot of players were still bedding in. A lot of the players weren't ready. And I think he's actually dealt incredibly well with what has been a tricky first season. A lot of the first seasons need a lot of stability to bed in, get your systems right, get the players familiar with how you want to play, and then second season you really kick on. And he's had to firefight while doing that at the same time. So I think he's really done well. And then if we go and compare his season to Garry Monk's season last season, you look at some of the statistics. Garry Monk finished the season with 14 wins, 19 draws, and 13 defeats. So Garry Monk was very much a manager that wanted to set up to be difficult to beat, strong. He wanted to be hard to beat, and then we would catch teams. And we had the quality to catch teams. Adams on the break, Jukovic as that long ball option if we needed. Hotter with a lot of creativity inside on the left, and Magoma going direct on the other side. And we had a lot of different options where we really were dangerous on the break. If you think he's had one of those 4 options this season in Jukovic only, who's had a fantastic season. I think he's got the best out of Jukovic. He's actually done better under Pep, Jukovic, than he did under Monk. So I think that says a lot as well. But obviously we finished the season on 52 points, but 61 had we not had the 9-point deduction. 64 goals scored and 58 conceded, so very much a balanced sort of goals scored to goals against ratio. Whereas this season, Pep's 112, so only 2 fewer than Monk last season, and that is with 9 games to go. So it's very much likely that he could catch that, 14 games won. I think we've got Charlton at home, we've got Hull at home, a lot of teams in free fall, games that we probably should win. So it's very likely that he could catch that. He's had 11 draws and 14 defeats. So obviously not as hard to beat as Monk, who's had 8 more draws. But he was very much like that, Monk. If you don't lose the game, you still get something from the game. Let's not lose it, we'll draw it if we have to. That was very much his philosophy. And I think that Pep's a little bit more open than that. He likes to play a little bit more expansive. He likes to play to win the game. If he can't win it, he will lose it, but he will try and win that game regardless. And I think that sometimes it's been his downfall, sometimes it's helped him, And I think that you take all of this into consideration. You also think about some of the hardships we've had this season. I think back to the Preston game where we lost 1-0 at home. We've had no real strikers on, or no real attacking threat. We've peppered the goal all day, but we just couldn't break them down. We lost 1-0, and the referees against us that day, he's blew up for a water break. When do you ever see that in a game of football? When, the momentum was with us. I think of the Middlesbrough game where we've scored in the last minute. It was a clear goal. We've had it chalked off. That's denied him another win and another extra 2 points. I think of the Millwall game away where Pedersen scored early second half. It's been chalked off for a foul. It was a clear goal. He gets another win from that, another 2 points. I think of, QPR, we could have won that game. We really should have. 1-0 up in the first half, we were cruising. And I think of a lot of games where we've been in strong positions and really, Pep can take some blame for that because, we let those leads slip. We probably should have been more organised. We should have been more disciplined. But especially with the Millwall game, the Middlesbrough game, we can't be blamed for that. Those are clear goals. We've played well in all game. We've not really, been troubled much. And we've gone and scored and had them both ruled out for no real apparent reason. So, I think he's been a bit hard done by some of the refereeing officials. It's nothing to do with a conspiracy against us. It simply is a poor standard of refereeing this season. It's been really bad at times this season. And then you look at some of the final issues that he's actually had to deal with. So we spoke about Jukovic being the only real fit striker, and that's true. To have a real good go at getting up the league, you've got to have at least 2, I think 3 very, very good strikers in this league to score the goals or options off the bench if things aren't quite working. And he's had 1. He's had his target man all season, and that's not really ideal when Pep wants to play something that's a little bit more open, a little bit more expansive. And he's been dealt that difficult hand. You only have to look at, he then gets Scott Hogan in towards the back end. He got him February the 1st was actually his first game. And we went on, I think we went on a 7-game unbeaten run in the league after Hogan played. We were 10 unbeaten from the 11th of January to March. So it just shows that he gets his striker in. We start winning games. It gives us a little bit more of an incentive up front, a little bit more potency up front. And it just shows that if he'd have had these resources from the start of the season, where would we have been? Where could we be? I certainly think we'd have been in the top half, top 10 at least. He was dealt a massive blow around the Christmas period where actually a lot of our bad form came into play. We lost 5 and drew 1 in December. Starting with, we lost to QPR 2-0 at home. We lost to West Brom 3-2 at home. We lost to Hull 3-0 away. 1-1 away to Blackburn. 4-5 home defeat to Leeds. 3-2 home defeat to Wigan. And a lot of that coincided, coincidentally, with losing his 2 centre-backs. He lost Jake Clark-Salter, he lost Mark Roberts, and to rip up your centre-back pairing like that, who had been so solid for us in the previous 4 games where we'd been undefeated. We won at Reading and we drew away to Huddersfield and Sheffield Wednesday and drew at home to Millwall. You've got to see that as it was another big blow for him. He's got to then deal with only one recognised centre back in Harley Dean, and then he brings in either Bajrami, who's never played a first team game, or Wes Harding at centre back, who is naturally a right back. So he's dealt with, you've got to see his bad patches coincided with losing his centre back pairing. His good patches coincide with getting in his main striker, and Bella was fit. As soon as we've lost Bella, we've struggled a little bit more. We actually lost Bella during the QPR game, which we drew 2-2, and then we struggled to score once he went off the pitch that day, and we lost at home to Reading. So we lose a lot of that attack and potency again from Bella. So we need depth. I think one of the biggest issues this season is that Blues don't have quality in depth. You've got a decent starting 11, and then you take any player out of that starting 11 through injury, through suspension, and you're just plugging, round holes with square pegs. And it's something that I'm hoping that when the board get the chance to re-strengthen the squad, whenever the window reopens, is that we learn that strength in depth is going to be key. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean we go and spend 30 million. It doesn't. What it means is that we need to recognise the areas maybe where we've only got one in that option, or if we're going to play two up front, we need at least 3 strikers, or we need 2 wingers on each side. We need 4 solid central midfielders. We need 3 or 4 solid centre backs. So that we lose 1, we lose 2 even, which happens. We've got that replacement there to step in of good quality that we know we're not going to be massively hindered. And we need as well players that are going to fit the system next season. We want to play open, expansive football. That's no secret. I think a lot of teams do. But we need the players as well. There's a lot of players in that squad, which I will talk about in another video. I think next week's video, I was going to talk about the whole squad, who stays, who goes, in my opinion. And you can give your opinions as well. I would love to hear those. But we need players that are going to fit the squad, and some of the players in this current squad, as much as fans love them, they're not going to fit the system, and they're not good enough to get us up. So I think, wrapping up this video, I think that if you look at the season as a whole, I think it's been a big roller coaster. You've had a really, really bad Christmas period. You've had a fantastic New Year up to March period. You've had an up and down start to the season, we win games like Barnsley at home, Stoke at home, Charlton away, but then we lose silly games like Preston at home. We had a couple of bad away games against Forest and Swansea. We win games against Middlesbrough at home, Blackburn at home, Luton at home. So we've had a pretty good home record. I think that it's been up and down. If I was to rate the season out of 10, I'd give it a 6. I think that there's plenty to do. If he gets the players in and he has a better season, I think he'll have a much better season next season if he has the players that he needs and the depth in the squad. But I want to hear your opinions, guys. So please tell me down in the comments what you think of the season. Rate it out of 10 if you can. And please let me know obviously what you think was the turning points, where you think we should have done better, where you think we've actually maybe overachieved, or where you think, that I might be wrong in that. Do you think that it's been a bad season and maybe I'm just being a little bit soft on him? Do you think that I'm being a bit hard and it's actually been a really good season? What do you think? Obviously, he's given a lot of youth a chance this season. I think that it's fantastic that he's doing that, and he's a brave manager, and I think that given another season, we'll have a much better time. I think he's a good guy, a nice guy. He's got the right intentions at the club, and we just need to allow him to build, guys. But let me know in the comments. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and go and follow us on all those social media platforms so that we can start implementing this new regime where you guys are going to send in your opinions, you guys are going to send in your videos so that we can discuss those on the weekly shows. Instead of us thinking of topics, you guys are going to give us the topics, you're going to give us the talking points, you're going to give us your opinions on the video so that then we can delve into it a little bit deeper and it becomes very much your show instead of just our show. So let me know, guys, and I really appreciate you tuning in. I know it's been a while, so I can only apologise, but I hope you understand that I've had a bad couple of weeks, so I'm very apologetic for the channel not being up and running. But we're back now, guys, and I hope you've enjoyed this one. Thank you very much. Keep right on.